Welcome to this month's MIC meditation. Tonight we are blessed to have with us a good friend of the Maronite Faith Council who's back with us again, Andrew Lee. We're delighted to have him for this month's meditation. He is a spiritual director and retreat leader, PhD student, and postulant for the priesthood in the Episcopal Diocese of California. His PhD study at Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley focuses on Christian medieval mysticism, which also informs his own personal contemplative practices. He and his wife, Catherine, live in Nevada with their cat, Maximus the Confessor. And you can find out more about Andrew's and Catherine's contemplative work and offerings on their website, openmonastery.net, openmonastery.net. So it's my joy and just heartfelt privilege to have you with us again, Andrew. Thank you so much for leading us tonight.
Thank you so much. It's a joy to be here with all of you, and I want to wish all of you a happy International Women's Day. By the way, welcome to this meditation. And today I want to lead us in a practice that's about finding hope in apocalypse. And obviously, that's a word that we hear thrown around a lot these days because it seems like, in many ways, our world is just sort of falling apart. As a lot of you probably know, apocalypse comes into our English language from the Greek title of the last book of the Bible, the Christian Scriptures. And it's translated as Revelation because that's the literal meaning. So apocalypse, it literally means some hidden meaning or secret that's being revealed to us. And obviously that book, what's revealed to us, is all kinds of images and language about disasters and wars and plagues and all of these things leading up to the end of the world. And that's why apocalypse as a word has become an easy way to describe the kind of world that we seem to find ourselves in nowadays. But I want to suggest that in the midst of all of that doom and gloom and end of the world stuff that's in the book of Revelation, there are some threads of hope. And that's especially true if we read the book with a mystical lens, through the lens of mysticism. As Scott graciously noted in his introduction, I study medieval mysticism as an academic topic. And in the Middle Ages, mysticism was not so much about extraordinary experiences or visions, although, of course, those happened. But mysticism was really a reference to a particular way of looking at the world, looking at life, and interpreting the scriptures. So medieval writers, medieval mystics would speak about their mystical interpretation of the Bible, their mystical way of looking at the Bible. And what this mystical way of interpretation is it moves away from any kind of literal interpretations, not taking it literally, but it focuses on more symbolic and more spiritual levels of interpretation. And so our practice today, our meditation today, is going to be a mystical reading of a short passage from the book of Revelation that uses these different mystical levels of interpretation. The first level, and you'll have to remember these, I'll refer to them throughout the time, but just to let you know where we're going, the first mystical level is kind of a symbolic or archetypal level. So we're looking at archetypes about our common spirituality, our humanity, and also maybe our common hope. Symbols or images that prime the imagination for looking for a message of hope. The second level is a moral or ethical level that helps us see ways that we can make the world a more just or more hopeful or more peaceful place. And finally, the third level, which I'm calling transcendent or spiritual. The technical game is anagogic, which doesn't mean anything to anyone, so I'm not going to use that. But a transcendent or spiritual level is one that reveals something about the spiritual life or the spiritual journey and how we make that journey for each one of ourselves. Again, you don't need to remember those. I'll refer to them as we go along. But we're going to do a modified lectio divina, which simply means holy reading. And this is a timeless practice in Christian mysticism. And it's a way of reading through Scripture slowly and contemplatively to sort of see what arises for us out of the reading. And we're going to read this selection from Revelation 3 times, corresponding to these three mystical or symbolic levels. And each time that I read the selection from Scripture, I'll give you some instructions and some prompts on how to meditate with the words, and just kind of what to focus on as you're looking for those threads of hope in this very challenging book from Scripture. So for our first time of reading, we're focusing on the symbolic or archetypal level. And as we read and as we meditate at this level, I invite you to look for images, look for archetypes that just jump out at you or seem to engage your imagination in some way. And notice any connections or associations of ideas that come to your mind, and help you connect this reading with other parts of your life, or with our common humanity, or with your hopes for the world. And then after I read, we'll have a moment of silence, a couple of moments of silence. And in the space of that moment of silence, I invite you, if you wish, if you would like, just to drop into the chat the symbol or archetype, the image, in just a word or two that spoke to you. So beginning with our first reading. Then I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth, and I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, "Look, God's dwelling is here with humankind. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. There will be no mourning, crying, or pain any more, for the former things have passed away. The nations will walk in the light of the city, and the rulers of the earth will bring their glory into it. Its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there." Then an angel showed me the river of life-giving water, shining like crystal, flowing from the throne of God through the middle of the city's main street. On each side of the river is the tree of life, which produces 12 crops of fruit, bearing its fruit each month. The tree's leaves are for the healing of the nations. So I invite you, if you would like, as we are sitting in this meditative space together, if there was an image or archetype that just really spoke to you, I invite you to mention that in the chat if you'd like. So for our second reading, we're focusing on the moral or ethical level. And don't be put off by those words. This is not about some kind of command, thou shalt or thou shalt not. It's not about that. Rather, it's about noticing if something in the reading resonates with you or prompts you, prompts our spiritual communities, prompts all human beings to take some kind of action, big or small, that would just help make the world a more just and more loving and more hopeful place. It may be that the symbol or image that jumped out at you in the first reading um, informs this action that occurs to you, but that doesn't have to be the case. Just listen and meditate on what you feel in your spirit you're being invited to do or explore. And once again, after the reading, we'll have a space of silence. And in that silence, again, I invite you, if you like, to just drop into the chat one or two words, maybe a short sentence about something that you feel prompted, a message of action that we or the whole world can take. Then I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, "Look, God's dwelling is here with humankind. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. There will be no mourning, crying, or pain any more, for the former things have passed away. The nations will walk in the light of the city, and the rulers of the earth will bring their glory into it. Its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there." Then an angel showed me the river of life-giving water, shining like crystal, flowing from the throne of God through the middle of the city's main street. On each side of the river is the tree of life, which produces 12 crops of fruit, bearing its fruit each month. The tree's leaves are for the healing of the nations. And again, if there is a particular small or big action that has risen up for you, I invite you to drop that in the chat. So for our final reading, we're focusing on the transcendent or spiritual level. And as we read and meditate this time, I invite you to look for what you might be hearing about the spiritual journey, either your own personal journey or the journey of your tradition or even the common human spiritual journey. Notice if you're hearing anything about what the journey is like or where it's taking us or any ideas about how best to undertake it. Notice if it's telling you anything about the sense of hope or hopefulness that lies in the journey. And after this reading, once again, we'll have some silence. And this time, I invite you just to remain with that silence, not to put anything in the chat or anything, but just to hold that space as you reflect on and sit with any insights that you've gained or any sense of movement stirring up in your inner being, and see what might be happening inside of your spirit. And we'll close that particular time of silence with the sound of the bell that I have here. Then I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, "Look, God's dwelling is here with humankind. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. There will be no mourning, crying, or pain any more, for the former things have passed away. The nations will walk in the light of the city, and the rulers of the earth will bring their glory into it. Its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there." Then an angel showed me the river of life-giving water, shining like crystal, flowing from the throne of God through the middle of the city's main street. On each side of the river is the tree of life, which produces 12 crops of fruit, bearing its fruit each month. The tree's leaves are for the healing of the nations. Thank you all. I'd like to invite you now to a time of sharing and ask that we turn the recording off so that we can feel free to share